Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Noble with Nobu, the All American Shaman. Nobu, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks for having me, brother.
Thank you for being here. So, today we're going to talk about sense of smell, scent, and all that kind of goes along with that. So, maybe you can kind of open us up and from a shamanic perspective, how this sense of scent perception is used in your work.
So going back, and I'm going to continue to beat this dead horse, going back to the etymology and the Latin root of spirit, which is again spire, referring to air. Scent, the olfactory, apparatus, receive information through different oils or odors, compounds found within the air in different parts per million or billion or what have you, into different degrees of sensitivity depending on one's own species, gender, location, etc., and their own health. So it's a I would consider, in terms of the different senses, with sound being the most powerful method of healing and shifting someone's conscious, and I would put then scent as number two.
Huh.
Because even though scent is something that people aren't usually as consciously aware of or as attuned, it's still extremely pervasive. I mean, when you breathe in different things, um, it's causing such a subconscious reaction that most people aren't even aware of. For example, like when people buy homes, if the real estate agent has bread baking in the oven, and they manage to hit it right in terms of getting that right odor on what they want, they're going to immediately associate with a sense of, home and comfort and be more inclined to buy. Um, Different pheromones contained within, people's odors, or again, their breath, will influence, their predilection towards selecting a mate selection. And this isn't just human beings, this is all species. Um, Again, we can affect the limbic system, the nervous system. We can put you in a sympathetic state or a parasympathetic state, just depending upon what scent is present. We can disinfect the air via different spirits, right? We talked about thieves oil before in the past, as well as how that, cleanse the air of different entities as well. And science has shown that, burning sage cleanses the air of, up to like 90% of different pathogens and bacteria. So from that denser scientific perspective, which again mirrors the spiritual shamanic lens of things, of calling upon these different plant spirits and their various forms to aid us in getting to where we want to go or shifting our current state of consciousness.
Yeah, that makes sense. And kind of the first thing that came up when you mentioned the topic, and I think it was on like a commercial for deodorant or something, but it was like scent is the strongest sense tied to memory. And I feel like, in my personal experience, that rings true. Is like if I smell something that's like very particular to a time and place in my life, like I'll kind of like almost instantly be taken there without really the ability to stop it. Does that kind of tie into, I mean, you said like the sound is maybe number one, scent is number two. Is it because of this link to our memory? And then maybe alongside that, like, is it maybe one of the oldest senses, kind of in the evolutionary path of maybe mammals or whatnot, animal development?
So if we look at, and please cut me off if I start going on a tangent here with zoology, but for example, if we look at to the pragmatic nature of sense, right? I can only see a track in the dirt for so long. I can only hear, right? A sound may travel far in the case of whales, right? But it doesn't last. The sound, the vibration, once it goes, it's gone. That's also why I said it's number two to sound. It's still it has much longer lasting effects. Sound restructures and shapes things and has a strong signal that most things can hear or feel, but then it's gone. It doesn't leave as much of an imprint and footprint on its environment. Whereas again, if your dog gets sprayed by a skunk, it carries that energetic signature for a much longer period of time, without needing to be constantly re-exposed to it. Whereas again, in the case of field subliminals, pure frequencies, we need to constantly get, exposure to restructure and reprogram. Scents stay for a long time. Essential oils are, effervescing these volatile substances are effervescing for 2 to 24 hours generally. And some odors, again, like manure or black powder or rifles, I mean, explosives can be detected again by canines, TSA agents for days or weeks on end. So I think that
Mm,
that speaks to the more primordial and subconscious element of it. And furthermore, expanding upon that, I think the reason why most of us have lost touch with our sense of smell is because of just how overwhelming it has been the course of our evolution as a species. I mean, most people are tuning out a lot of sensory data as is visually and auditorily, but think about it. Bathing was a luxury in most parts of human history. I mean, even in the United States, which is, first world modern society, it was only within the past 100 to 200 years of where bathing became like, a pretty much 90% of the population has access to it daily. But for thousands of years, humans have, you know, stank. And so being able to just, imagine this, like, I'm gonna get really dirty here and more than one, dirty and nasty. It's like you're in the Wild West and you just spent 2 weeks out on the trail wearing the same pair of clothes, leather chaps, riding your stinky horse. All right. And you show up to a saloon and then you end up buying paying for a prostitute. You know, can you imagine the stench? I
right.
don't know about the audience, but the longest I've gone without showering was 2 to 3 weeks when I was in the military. And I mean, by God, when you take off your body armor, your helmet, your uniform, even just like getting like your backpack, which again, it doesn't even have direct skin to skin contact. The scent pervades everything. I mean, it is
Mm,
pervasive. And
right.
that becomes your aura in a way. And you and I have spoken before. I've said I've drawn a lot of connections between pheromones and odors and also spiritual protection from entities. Because again, it is becoming your aura in this way, whether you have higher concentrations of pheromones or garlic or onion or skunk or cannabis, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I guess you mentioned like the sound is like pretty quick, and then it goes away because I mean those are like waves through the air, through the ether or whatnot. But scent is like they're actually these molecules that like you're getting in breathing in through your nose, and then they're attaching to the receptors there. So they're kind of like physical, tangible particles that can kind of accumulate over time. So I think that's interesting too. Is like we're breathing this in, like they're in the air, and like we can't really perceive them with our eyes. But like if you have like a crazy microscope or whatever to like you actually can see the particles that you are smelling. So I think that's one just like kind of awesome and magical, but also kind of proves the point as to like why they linger for so long is because like they are these like kind of physical things that have a longer half life than most other things that we're perceiving. And then so to kind of tie it into the pheromones, and we kind of talked about this on the juice update just before your body is like this factory creating these chemicals to accomplish its goals. So, can you maybe talk about that a little bit as far as maybe why the body is producing some of these things? I mean, the straightforward answer is like to attract mates for pheromone, but maybe there's some kind of other reasons. Um, and maybe like as we're listening to you and folks in the audience, like what to be aware of as far as the states to get yourself in to produce some of these good ones and maybe uh, promote the body into being in a healthy state where we can have this maybe
Mm.
more clean or nice smelling aura to attract good things to ourselves.
So again, it's a large part of it too is going to boil down to what you consume. Again, your input is going to dictate your output. And I'm going to beat another dead horse too. Is like if you consume fruit, nothing but fruit, and you smell what comes out your backside, it's only a matter of time once that gets cleaned up that what's coming out of your armpits and your body odor is also fresh. I mean, when I was juicing like grapes, or like the most grapes are extremely astringent. Really just draw things out of you. Dr. Robert Morris can highly recommends lemons and grapes for stage 4 of anything because they're so astringent. It could put you in a healing crisis, but like, I'm not kidding you when I say that, like, my crap did not stink. It smelled like grapes, which is wild. Most people have this association that their fecal matter must smell putrid or unpleasant, right? Most people have this association, furthermore, that what comes out of their pores or their breath, that we as humans have been fed the lie that, we are inherently sinful and that we must constantly atone and purify via toothpaste, body, deodorants, and things to mask our odors. And I would encourage everyone to instead to shift the frequency overall and elevate and ascend to where it's not, you don't have to mask anything. It's pleasant. I never dated any woman who I didn't like their breath as soon as they woke up, even if they went to the bed without brushing their teeth. If that was like one of my most, I've always been a primal person. And I knew that like, if I didn't enjoy their smell at their worst, I wasn't going to like them. I don't want someone, you can say with makeup, right? It's like, and it's also an indicator at a subconscious level of many different factors. Like, how healthy are they? Your breath is a reflection of what's going on in your stomach. And again, your oral microbiome. So we can, again, assess subconsciously very quickly, like, okay, like, what are their genetics like? How are they able to perform? Furthermore, going back to these different pheromones like androstenol, androstenone, androsterone, androstenone, they all essentially affect like how you are perceived again before you're even seen by people. They're subconsciously already smelling you and taking in your aura, your energetic signature, and knowing who they're dealing with. So, for example, if people want to increase their androstenol, males, females, when they smell androstenol, they their GABA increases, so they become more relaxed, they become more calm, more receptive, generally more easily aroused, things that can increase your androstenol. My fields. You can also use celery, parsnip. They are high in androstenol. Also, you can buy different perfumes like pig, pork. I don't obviously recommend pork, but pork is also high in androstenol. So and a lot of hunters use these different pheromones as well when going boar hunting or pig hunting because they're simulating that different odor to attract that being. Androstenone is more of a, I would say, it has none in it at the end, not androsterone, but androstenone is more of this like a sigma male pheromone of where you're very dominant but people are more likely to give you way. But again, if someone is increasing their pheromones, these different capacities, whether it be through morphic fields, subliminals, or again, just doing some sort of unnatural shift, there's been people within these different communities who've gotten the crap beaten out of them because they're giving off this aura of dominance, but they're 135 pounds soaking wet, right? So they can't back up the aura. Again, it'd be like if I was just oozing that testosterone and those pheromones, but I was a pipsqueak, people wouldn't take me seriously. I get my shit kicked in. So again, it's just a good point of warning people. It's like make sure that whenever you're trying to make any sort of shift, as we talked about different archetypes as well, as like being a David Goggins type dude, that it takes time and that you don't want to rush things. Be careful what you wish for. Then we have androsterone, which is more of this alpha type pheromone. Oh, androstenone and androsterone can be increased via pine pollen. It's I think I went over this before in the podcast. It's one of the few things I supplement with. Pine pollen's high in that pheromone and also DHEAA. And pheromones have a direct feedback loop with testosterone, dihydrotestosterone masculinity, which again makes sense. You produce these different androgens, testosterone, DHT, which make you inherently more masculine, and then their byproducts, they get converted into these different pheromones, and there's a different feedback loop. So also by making dietary shifts as well. Modern science is going to tell you that celery is not going to help you with that, but Nobu is going to tell you it will. Like, it's going to increase your virility, it's going to increase your masculinity, it's going to increase your detoxification. It's going to have a plethora of benefits. And then on a last note, garlic. I know people will say like, oh, it smells bad, but studies have actually shown that as long as you're not doing my size doses of garlic, of like juicing it, but like smaller doses, it actually increases receptivity and respect from people. And I also think this is why Ayurveda generally also tells people not to consume garlic and onion, because these allicin compounds, heavily promoted in the Bible, by the way, these allicin containing compounds are antiviral, antibacterial. They also increase androgenic components of aggression. So
Mm.
in Hindu culture, again, they're much more placid, I would say, as a species, not a species, a culture rather. And so it makes more sense that Yahweh, the eagle, the god that, is asking people to sacrifice themselves to go to war with each other, that would be promoting people to kill off things within themselves via garlic, a potent
Mm.
killer, vampire killer, and by proxy, as within, so without.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, one message there on like if you're looking for, especially with morphic fields, I think is um, maybe like a more direct warning label on that because they can be used when like before your body has had the ability to like kind of shift into the like that true form of it. So it's like be careful what you're broadcasting out there. If this new vibe that you're emitting is like trying to pick fights with people, make sure you're actually able to back that up and realize what message you're broadcasting out there. Whereas if your body through maybe years of strength training and diet and just getting into that testosterone level through like the foundational level, then like you'd kind of be in that natural state anyway. It's not like a false front or anything like that. Could we maybe talk about any links between scent and emotion? I know that I've heard someone say, I think it was like when I was whitewater rafting and the guide was looking at my friend's mom and she was like, I could smell the fear on you. Like I could smell the fear. Is there kind of links between what scents we're giving off and like the emotional states that we're in?
100%. 100%. Again, just as I said before, we can shift things. For example, geranium, aphrodisiac. It's, you know, the constituents, the different notes, high, low, and medium notes within each essential oil or scent can affect our brain chemistry. Because again, I think I said earlier, but 5% of it is absorbed in the brain, and then 95% in the lungs, and then but it affects the rest of the nervous system. Again, electrically, these different, as you pointed out, these visible, observable compounds, whether it be witnessing a fart through a heat sensor, right? We can see the cloud of vapor and the matter contained within it. Uh, I know, I know, no bullshit, but a lot of shit. The Furthermore, peppermint can be stimulating, or even with like lavender Augustia can be the regular kind that most people associate is very calming and sedative. But when it's crossbred or it's Angustifolia intermedia, it's stimulating. So which comes down again, it's all just chemistry within these different oils and odors on how they influence us. And again, also too, furthermore, going back to your whitewater scenario, I don't have any concrete data to support off the top of my head of like how you can smell someone's fear, but I can. I can totally, I can smell when someone is scared. I can detect. In fact, a lot of people who know me throughout the subliminal morphic field community have asked me about like my ability to like, well, Nobu, can you, do you astral project and whatnot? And I don't really do that so much, but I can smell people from a long distance. I can tell when someone is off in some way, even at an immense
Smells
distance.
fishy.
Yes, it smells
Yeah.
fishy.
Yeah, that's interesting. It kind of got me thinking. So, like, in my job, I'm like hybrid. So, in the office some days, but then working remote other days. And we have team members distributed around the country and around the world. And it just kind of got me thinking, like, the ability to sniff out somebody's intentions or agenda or motives is much more difficult for a variety of different reasons. But I think that tying into this episode, like, you can't smell them. So, like, you wouldn't have that very maybe more primal sense to detect kind of like what they're up to. And then maybe that prevents a feeling of trust between team members. I know myself, I enjoy the benefits of being able to work remotely as far as saving time on commuting and being closer to family during the day and whatnot. But then also, I realize that there are a lot of negative sides to it of like you don't really bond with your team members. You can't really connect or kind of figure out who they are as a person, personality wise, nearly as much. So maybe you could talk about like dynamics, in this more virtual world where we have a lot of different communities that are online and just like that kind of limitation, not being able to to smell what everyone's up to.
First off, I'm gonna play advocate as diablo that I would encourage people to still treat their space, even when there's not someone physically three-dimensionally present with it, still to sage it, still to make sure it smells nice, make it as appealing as possible. Because again, even though the audience is not in my space, I guarantee you that there are some individuals who, if I had a whole pile of mess outside the camera view, they would be able to pick up on that energy, whether it's cozy or not, right? Same thing. It's like, and by proxy, again, you are what you eat, company you keep, music what you beat, with whom you sleep, and then also like the scent and odor that you reek. So, like, if you are in a space that smells good and you smell good, it's still going to be your subconscious and your energetic field as a whole is shifted and impacted. And by proxy, again, the separation to the three-dimensional logical mind may seem very vast between, for example, you're right now in New Jersey, I'm in Pennsylvania, but still, when it comes down to the quantum level, it's quite microscopic. So to still, which comes back to something someone taught me when I was new in this journey, is that you should always pretend as if everyone can hear your thoughts because they can. And
And
furthermore, you
everyone
should,
can smell your BO.
yes,
Because they can, yeah, no
at,
matter
at,
where they are in the world.
at a subconscious level, yes, maybe not consciously, but again,
Mm,
um, and I would say too, like, furthermore, character is defined as who you are when no one's looking, right?
right.
Who are you when there's no one tangibly observing you? But when you get more into this, the spirituality and the shamanism and the occult and the woo woo, the more you become aware is that you're never alone, and it's very hard to truly disappear from the perception lens or snouts of others.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's like kind of like you are your environment to a certain extent, and like the environment you surround yourself with is a reflection, like the internal is a reflection of the external, and vice versa. And so like you're saying, if you had a mess and some smelly clothes piled in the corner off camera right now, like you would kind of be that that vibe too, and then other people would be able to pick up on it even if they didn't necessarily see the source of it. They'd kind of be able to perceive through just like the way you act and carry yourself as well. Wanted to talk about because you mentioned kind of like smelling nice and having clean space, and I know that like another one of these tricks of consumerism and things like that is selling products that quote unquote smell clean. I know there's been a lot of research coming out just about how disruptive to the human body these artificial scents
Hmm.
are. Like plug in one of these Glade plugins and it's like, oh, it smells like a meadow in Switzerland, but like really it's just a bunch of like molten chemicals that are being released into the air and probably binding to your nose and like doing damage there. Anything you want to kind of call out specifically on these artificial quote unquote clean smells?
Most of consumerism is selling as vices. Most of conveniences as well are vices to begin with. Whether that be, the plastic wrapped food or the odors that smell nice and they're easy, but it's just masking it, right? Like, it's it's going back to that allopathic model of just slapping something quick and easy and cheap instead of going to the root cause. If you have bad odor, address the cause of the odor. chlorophyll is amazing for detoxifying the body and removing body odor. I would encourage anyone to go search online. You'll see tons of, raw foodists encouraging chlorophyll supplementation in various forms. Spirulina and chlorella are also great at detoxifying the body and cleansing out that stuff. But again, same with the house. It's like if your house smells or your car smells, let's look at the pattern of behaviors of why it got there in the first place. Were you smoking a lot of ganja? Are you smoking cigarettes? And a lot of people are so inclined to just keep on slapping band-aids and makeup and caking up things instead of just purging and going to the core root of the matter. And you
Mm,
already hit the nail on the head as far as most of these compounds and these scents are, you know, not good for us. They are going to cause damage. They're going to bind the receptors in a way they aren't as God intended. Whereas again, going back to essential oils, the reason why tea tree oil is such a powerful antifungal for humans is because it's a powerful antifungal for the tree. Like
right.
you're literally, and if you look at your lungs and you look at the leaves, how it's a lung, it's breathing, it's as above so below, as within and without in nature. And this is why I love shamanism so much, is because anyone can access it. Doesn't matter where you are on the planet, you can access shamanism. You can see yourself reflected within nature. um Also, you know these different constituents and volatile oils within the essential oils do the same function for us as a plant. So there's no playing God with the matter, and you don't need to do essential oils. You can do this with your diet as well, as I discussed earlier. If you eat pork, eat celery, you know, consume these different things, you will give them off. And you don't even have to. If someone's like, well, and I'm not recommending, before we get shadow banned, I'm not recommending that people consume essential oils neat. Although I'll be very honest with you, I do. I bathe in them neat. I hardly dilute them, but I am a different breed. Make sure you're always diluting your essential oils. Make sure you do skin patch tests. Make sure you research any contraindications. Some of them may cause increased photosensitivity, so you might get burnt by the sun, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, these are powerful tools that have been around for thousands of years, and for the most part, we're actually really limited to the upper caste of society because of their potency. And while I go poke the proverbial hornet's nest, when I was in school for aromatherapy, I only attended one semester, because and for one of these reasons why I left, they were teaching us on how, I want to say it was a French gentleman with the last name Gustave, who burnt his hand, and then he like stuck his hand in a vat of lavender oil, and his hand healed from the burn. Again, healed from the burn in miraculous time. And I remember we had then a test on essential oils, and one of the questions was, can you claim that essential oils heal? And the answer was no, because again, the FDA, and going back to the Food and Drug Administration, going back to the protein from the juicing, segue, a lot of business and money is invested in making sure that people do not access these holistic, alternative, ancient, true healing modalities.
Right. Yeah. You're off message there, bud. Even if you're getting healed by these things, you're not allowed to say it. You can't be hurting our bottom line by giving people some free medicine out there, man. You're hurting profits. Um, could you maybe talk about just like in your shamanic work, or just like kind of generally speaking, like types of oils that are helpful for certain things? Like what are some of these different effects, maybe things to kind of look out for if you're exploring this area.
Uh, I would encourage people to trust their intuition first and foremost, right? Um, and if you can't trust your intuition, then think about this from a more logical perspective of, you know, if you had to give cinnamon a heating quality or a cooling quality, which would you give it, JT?
Heating, like a
Okay.
spicy.
Okay. It's much more stimulating. It's much more masculine, more of a yang energy. All right. What about lavender? Is that more calming or stimulating?
Yeah, yeah, associated with like sleepiness.
Yeah. If we look at what qualities do you associate with like eucalyptus or lemon?
Eucalyptus sounds kind of cool and refreshing. Maybe lemon is a little bit more, I don't know. Like I'd like lemon juice is hydrating, so maybe cooling as well.
Lemon juice is very astringent and very good cleaner. I know like one of the most popular and like pine sol, like and also it's funny too how a lot of products just seek to mimic what nature's already doing. Like pine sol is a really popular, at least it was when I was a kid, like powerful cleaner. Uh,
Mm,
lemon pledge, for dusting,
mm,
spraying on
mhm.
the things, for cleaning, but it's just imitating what happens in nature. Not totally relevant, but this is a good exercise for people to do if you don't believe me on terms of the power of lemons and cleansing is get yourself a bunch of lemons, make sure they're all approximately the same ripeness, and then inspect them beforehand and place them throughout your house or your residence, your office, what have you, even your car. And take pictures of when you start of each one. And then over the course of the following days, you will witness them age according to the toxicity or negativity in your environment. So
Mm.
if I put a lemon on top of my laptop, it will age, I would say, about 3x faster and rot than if I put it on my altar. And I've tested this.
Interesting.
I've tested this in many different locations where I've gone and placed things. If you put a lemon in a corner, it's going to age faster and rot faster than if it's in a more naturally geometric, because again, boxes aren't natural in nature. Uh, if you put it in a more feng shui friendly environment, it will, not deteriorate. But lemons are very high in different compounds like terpenes, which I know is also related to cannabis, same constituents, which have different properties. And again, all citruses in both the fruit variety and the essential oil variety are antifungal, antiviral, and also anti-cancer.
Interesting. So the lemon's kind of like a canary in the coal mine. So if you have one that's rotting like crazy in that space, you may want to look to tidy it up or set up the feng shui a little differently to get some energy flowing.
Yes, sir. It's a great diagnostic tool. But yeah, so going back to your original query as far as like what people should go for is again, trust your intuition first and foremost. And if not, look up, you can look it up from an Ayurvedic standpoint. You can look it from a traditional Chinese medicine standpoint. You can get yourself, you know, I got this one from my mama, essential oil for beginners. There's plenty of material out there, and it doesn't have to be essential oils. It could be sage. You could be burning, just even if you have a fireplace at home, making the distinction of like what kind of wood you're going to burn, right?
Mm,
Western red cedar is much different than cherry. Western red cedar is similar to pine and where it has a lot of antifungal properties. That's why the indigenous people of Washington, the Pacific Northwest, used it for their boats. If it's going to get wet, you need to make sure it resists fungus.
right. Very cool. Yeah. Any other, I guess, topics within our theme of scent and senses that I haven't really picked up on yet? Any other areas you wanted to explore?
It it's a very I said it's the second most powerful, healing modality. And again, going back to that because it leaves a longer footprint. You know, my field, pun intended, is fields in terms of people causing very drastic, quick shifts in their consciousness and reality by restructuring their electromagnetic fields and water structure via cymatics and different resonances. However, scents are really powerful because you can apply it and it has much longer lasting effects. So the more conscious people are in terms of when they want to shift those different gears, you can really cause palpable shifts in your atmosphere of your space and people you're around with by making those things. It's really powerful. If you have your in-laws coming over and you get along with them, put some lavender in a diffuser, right? If
Mm,
you're going to go on a date with a woman and you want to make her more aroused, eat some celery and take some pine pollen, not just the day before, but saturate yourself. Because again, these are parts per billion in these different compounds. But again, if you
mm.
stay consistent, it'll build up over time. Taking baths in different oils. Again, preparing for each scenario in an intentional way, making the mundane as sacred as possible.
Mm, amen. Yeah, thank you very much, Nobu, for guiding us through another topic here. And any other last comments you want to leave the audience with before we close out?
You are what you reek.
Yeah. So reek wisely. Yeah. Thank you very much, Nobu. And thank you, everybody, for listening. See you next time.